Start. Hello, everyone. This is Jevon Thomas with Crystal Mitchell. We are at the top of the hour for Conversations on the Patio with Crystal and Jevon, a show about things we should have been taught in school. How are you, Crystal?
I am good. And yourself? It's good to see you.
That's good to see you. It's been a little while. Well, I suppose, no, we didn't do our thing last week.
We were celebrating Labor Day last week.
Yeah. I'm surprised I remembered how to get us back on there after all of that.
You must have had an excellent Labor Day.
No, Crystal, I did. I'm one of those blessed individuals. So much of my day depends on my attitude. So as long as I can change it, then things go good. So, yes, I had a great one. Did you have a good Labor Day?
I did. I worked all day in my garden. And
my goodness.
So hot, but it was so awesome.
Yeah. You really do like getting in that garden. I'm just going to raise the volume up here a little bit. What have you got planted this year?
Last week we planted the broccoli and spinach. And our pomegranate trees will have pomegranates in October.
Wow, that's coming up.
I know, and guavas, and it's been a great. I love this. I was telling my girlfriend I was down at the beach yesterday. I did yoga on the beach last night. It was phenomenal.
Oh, very cool. Where at?
Right at Doc Weiler. One of our friends, her mother-in-law. Yeah, one of my nieces, my girlfriend's nieces, her mother-in-law is a yoga teacher in Virginia. And so she's out here visiting. So they just kind of did an impromptu yoga class.
Nice.
And it was awesome. I slept like a baby last night. And so now I'm looking for one here. And I did some Googling, my favorite friend, Google. And there's one down in Santa Monica. So I have to see how I can incorporate at least one day. They do it 7 days a week. So I could probably do it on a Sunday.
Yeah. I have never thought about that, but that is an excellent idea. I think I might have told you, I occasionally do yoga on the beach here in Huntington, and it's really cool. A friend of mine started the program about 8 to 9 years ago, and she's been going strong and diversified. So now she has teachers every day of the week. And my roommate actually is a Qigong teacher. He goes out there Sundays at 8:30 in case you want to make that trip.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it was very relaxing listening to the ocean and the seagulls, and then you hear the people and the bikes and the music. It was great. It was a great way.
What time of the day did you do it?
We did that yesterday afternoon about 5:00.
And you still had a good night's sleep?
I still had a good night's sleep.
That's nice. That's putting you in the right frame of mind. That's very cool.
It was pretty awesome. So, so that was pretty cool because I've been working in the garden, the last couple of weekends, and it get a little tight from pushing and pulling, and so that was an awesome way to do that. But garden is going well. But the reason I said the beach part was because I've always wanted to have a house on the beach.
Oh yeah.
And so I was looking around last night while I was there and going, I can't have a garden on the beach. So I'm going to have to reevaluate now because
you can do it your way because you've got yours on your patio/balcony, right?
Right. I can do that, but I don't know. I have to do some research on how well, what does the sea air and sand do to your garden? Because
I can imagine,
plants are very sensitive to their environment. So I don't know. I'd have to do some research. As it stands right now, probably wouldn't survive unless I bought some plants that didn't have a problem with sand floating into their dirt. So I had to think about that. So I might have to reevaluate and have to be inland.
Well, you may be able to build one of those greenhouse things that's made out of plastic or something.
No, that's a good idea. That means lots of money and being able to have enough space on the beach to put a greenhouse. But that's an excellent idea.
Let's see. Lots of money. House on the beach. May I repeat that? House on the beach.
Financial advisor.
Indeed. House on the beach, and you're worried about the
How do I
greenhouse.
incorporate that in my retirement plan?
There you go. There you go. We'll work out the plan.
Okay.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and get started. I'm excited about our topic. Usually, you're so gracious that you let me preach on about all kinds of things. But this time, we actually get to converse, and I really do appreciate that because talking with you is really cool. It's called pre-tax versus after-tax. I'm looking at my notes here. Non-taxable and tax credit. What's the difference? What do they mean to me? Great topic, I think. And I'm just going to read your bio, and then let's hop right in. Is that okay?
All right. Did you notice that we were on the same wavelength this morning on backgrounds?
How about that? I didn't notice that. I did not, but you are right. You are spot on. Well, it's about time we started thinking alike, right?
There you go.
My goodness. Okay. Here we go. Crystal Mitchell, business coach, consultant, CEO of Mitchell Business Solutions, co-director of Recycling Black Dollars, co-host of the Business Zone with Crystal and Gilbert, a weekly online radio show, instructor at Mount San Antonio Community College, certified network for teaching entrepreneurship instructor, and last but not least, QuickBooks Pro Advisor, financial strategist. Welcome, my friend and mentor, colleague, Crystal Mitchell. Hey.
Well, hello, Jevon. I'm so happy to be here. It's always a great topic, and I'm looking forward to it.
Cool. Let's jump right in. Okay.
Yes.
Often, participants in retirement plans ask me about the difference between pre-tax and after-tax, right? It's a little bit complicated, but I have to start out by saying, in a past life, I worked at an insurance company. At an insurance company as a claims adjuster. And my boss would always say to me regarding things in the file, if it ain't there, it ain't there. And what she meant was you can intend for a lot of things to happen, but if they're not written down, they aren't set out precisely, you don't really have what you think you have. And I see that happen with insurance policies a lot. So I would say, I would just take a break right now and say, if you have an insurance policy with anybody, read what the document page says. You go in the back, you can see all the definitions, then go back to where it talks about your policy, read that and make sure you understand what it is that you have and that it's what you want to pay for. And last thing on that is state minimums are not always appropriate. So that's all I'll say about that. Okay, so let's talk about pre-tax. A lot of folks ask me, what is pre-tax and how does that help you? Okay. And I know, Crystal, in your line of work, you deal with pre-tax a lot. Am I wrong?
Right? Yeah, because of taxes. My accounting and I work with small businesses on making sure that their financial structure is in place. So, there's a lot of stuff that they need to do let me put it that way, that they don't do.
Yeah, and I would say that pre-tax investing it's almost like the eighth wonder of the world. Pre-tax means that when you put $1 in, you don't have to pay tax on that dollar. So for example, let's say you're going to invest $100 and you're in the 25% tax bracket. So that would mean ordinarily that you would put in $100 and you would pay 25% of that in taxes. Pretty simple math there, right? However, if you're investing pre-tax and you put that $100 in, you put that $100 in before they take the taxes out. So you reduce your income by $100, right? And then you don't have to pay tax on that $100. You pay tax. You take your 25% tax bracket. And you pay tax on $900. Let me back that up. So let's say you have an income of $1,000 and you're in the 25% tax bracket. Okay. So if you were to invest someplace else outside of, let's say, your retirement plan, after tax, right? You'd pay your $100, right? And you'd pay tax on that $100, that 25%, and you would actually invest $75. All right? Paid 100, you got 25% tax bracket, you're actually investing $75.
Okay. Wow.
Makes sense. If you do that pre-tax, right? So you still have your $100, you put that in, but it's pre-tax. So now your taxable income, instead of it being $1,000, now it's only $900. So if you're in the 25% tax bracket, you're only going to be taxed on that $900. You're still in the 25% tax bracket, but you're only taxed on that $900. So whatever that equals out to, let's call it $875.
About $875.
Yeah.
Right.
So now instead of it costing you $100, it's only costing you $25 to put that money in.
And you're creating, so it's like taking the money off the top, right? You're taking 25% off by investing it back into your retirement plan or wherever you're going to put it. So in the long run, you're actually saving money, not saving money, but putting money away that you may not have because it would have been taxable income. Is that what we're trying to say?
We are. A better way to look at it, another way to look at it is I'm actually investing and keeping that money, right? Because it's pre-tax, so I'm keeping it. I'm not giving it away. And instead of it costing me $100 to invest, it's only costing me $75 to invest because I'm in that 25% tax bracket. So instead of investing $100 and getting growth from that, I'm getting the same amount of growth off of $75.
Okay. Right? So better use of your money.
A better use of your money. So most folks, they think, well, I'm just going to invest over at some company, some off-brand company, whatever. I think it's a good idea after you fully fund your retirement plan, right? So let's get those pre-tax dollars first, right, if we can. Because anything we can do pre-tax means that we're actually reducing our tax liability, but we're still getting the same goods, right? So if we can do that more often, life is more better. So the example is still $100. Instead of paying the full $100, you're only paying $75 because you're investing pre-tax. Make sense?
So it's like going to a sale at Nordstrom's and getting, $25 off those $100-some dollar shoes that you've been wearing. And you're waiting for the sale. And now you save money, but you still got what you wanted, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's for the ladies and the men here that like to buy on sale.
Indeed. Pre-tax is a good thing. Yeah. Okay. So that's pre-tax. And that's important if you're in a business, because if you are scrounging for things to spend the money on, right, and you're looking for depreciating assets or assets that are depreciable, why not consider taking some of that money that you have, putting it into an asset that's pre-tax, taking those numbers right off the top. Right? So we can change your whole look of your numbers of your portfolios by reducing your tax liability right out the gate. Right? If you're putting $10,000 in your 401k plan, and you're always having to pay tax, to the government, and you're always looking for things you can depreciate, right? You're always looking for things you can spend some money on so you can depreciate, so you can reduce your tax liability. This is where I need your help. Why not put your money in a pre-tax investment that, number one, grows in value, and number two, comes right off the top so that we don't have as much income that we need to depreciate from. Am I making sense?
Now, let's say, and so you were saying that in relationship to our small businesses, but let's say we have an individual that's an employee, and I've heard this quite a bit from friends of mine and some of my clients that are really sole proprietors. So, but then they have a job, right? So they're making maybe six figures, but because of the tax situation and their tax liability or their tax rate, when they actually get their check, it's like half of what, because 25% or 30% have actually been subtracted as their taxes, right? So would that also work for them if they took a sizable amount of that money in a pre-tax situation?
Yes, most definitely. So if I understand your question, you're saying if I am an employee and
Mm-hmm.
I get my check, and
Mm-hmm.
because I'm in the 25% tax bracket, let's use round numbers there.
Okay.
Um, uh, I'm getting 25% chopped off,
Yes.
right? Okay. So if I use a 401k plan and I put X amount of dollars in that 401k plan, can I recoup some of that cost? That is, am I still
Yes.
going to lose 25 to 30% of my pay? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So the answer to that is pretty delicate because in a way, if you're in the 25% tax bracket, you're in the 25% tax bracket. So your contribution to your 401k doesn't affect your tax liability directly, but it
Mm.
does indirectly in that. And I had to say that real carefully because the way it works is if you're in the 25% tax bracket, you're in the 25% tax bracket. Okay. What we're going to do is we're going to say, I'm in the 25% tax bracket, or you're in the 25% tax bracket.
Mm-hmm.
Your gross pay is $100,
Right.
right? $100.
Mm-hmm.
Since
Mm-hmm.
you're in the 25% tax bracket, your check is only $750,
Okay.
right? Okay, because you
Mm-hmm.
paid 25% to Uncle Sam. All right.
Right. Exactly.
So now I'm going to say, let's take 10% of that check. All right. And we're going to
Mm-hmm.
put that 10% in to your 401k plan. So
Okay.
now when we go to look at your taxes, instead of you having $1,000 of tax liability, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we put 10% in, you only have $900 of tax liability.
Right.
So you've taken your 1,000, dropped it down to 900. Now your employer is going to base that 25% on that $900
Okay.
instead of on the $1,000
Right. Exactly.
because we're putting it in pre-tax. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Okay.
so as an employee, you can say, I've already gotten a benefit because I've reduced my tax liability. So let's say what's 25% of 900 rather than 25% of 1,000. We can work that out on our phone here.
Okay. So that was
It was like $875.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so instead of being taxed on $1,000, now you're being taxed on $900, smaller number,
Mm-hmm.
right? So instead of having $75 in your check, right? Now you have $875 in your check,
Okay.
right? Because we reduced your tax liability.
And that's what you're going to be taxed on is the 875.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, the 900. You're taxed on
The 900 and 875 is going to be your
your
gross.
net pay.
Your net
Right.
pay. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. So now do you have to, you just can't arbitrarily, I mean, there has to be a specific
725.
designated type of plan, right? That you do this pre-tax situation in, right?
Yes, it's called the 401k plan.
Okay. Just checking.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's actually not that cut and dried. It's not actually 875. Let me do my little math thing here.
Okay.
All righty. So far be it from me to be totally prepared. Hold on just a moment there. Where's our little calculator?
Oh, let me see if I can line this up. So it's we're doing 1,000.
So we're gonna do 900 times 0.25.
Okay.
Oh wow.
So it's 225.
So we're looking at, instead of 750, we're looking at 900 times.
So it's 675.
So it's 675.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. So your check is 675 instead of 750, right? But you got to save that $100, number one, and that's working for you in the market.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So instead of you taking your $100 after tax, so starting with 900, taking $100 out of that, now you can spend 800, right? Because you take your $100 out, put that into another type of investment, paying that fee, right? So now you've got your 750, because we start with 1,000. You take $100 out. Now we're down to 650, right? Okay, right? Because we're in that 25% tax bracket. So instead of 750, now we're down to 650 because we took $100 out. We take our $100 and we invest it someplace, just like when you buy bread at Safeway. You put it someplace, and it grows and it does wonderful. But your take home now is $650.
Right.
Right? Because we're at 1,000. We're in a 25% tax bracket. We only got 750. We took $100 of that 750, gives us 650 to live on, and we invested it.
Okay.
And that's after tax. Pre-tax says, okay, I'm going to get paid $100, but you're only going to tax me. I'm sorry, I'm going to get paid $1,000, but you're only going to tax me on $900. Right? So now I'm going to take 25% of my $900, and I'm going to clear my little guy here, and I've got and I lost it again. Oh, here we go. And I've got $900. Whoops, clear. $900 times 0.25, and that's $225. So instead of being taxed on 1,000 and having to pay $250, I'm being taxed on 900, and I only have to pay $225.
Okay.
So my $100 that I still have now, right? That I'm working on, instead of me being taxed at $250, I'm being taxed at $225. So now, instead of having $750 minus $650 to do what I got to do, I take my $225 and I take 900 minus that $225. So go 900 minus 225, that's 675. Are you with me? So I get to, so instead of living on $650, I'm living on $675. So it cost me, or I was able to save $25 by going pre-tax.
Okay. Are there any other, you have your 401k. Are there any other deductions that, as an employee, that would be pre-taxed as well? Like, is my health insurance pre-taxed or?
No, the health insurance isn't pre-tax. But if you can do, not Family Leave Act, but if you can do 125 deductions, where you can use 125 deductions to pay for babysitting, to pay for eyes, to pay for some medical expenses, that kind of thing. You can put money away in this 125 account, and it will come out of your check pre-tax, and so you can use that to actually pay for things. So if you have, if you're an employee and you know you're going to have to pay X amount of dollars, $2,000 a month for daycare.
Mm-hmm.
Why not pay that bill with pre-tax dollars? If you pay it with
Okay.
pre-tax dollars, then then you'll have this kind of situation, right? If you pay it with
Mm-hmm.
pre-tax dollars, then that money comes off the top of your check and it reduces your tax liability in the end game. Because
Well,
your
that's a
person,
good thing because you would have to
yeah,
pay that. You're going to pay for childcare regardless, right? So
exactly.
you might as well be taking it off pre-tax, still
Yep.
get the benefit of a tax deduction, right?
Yeah. So
Or
reduction in your that's a good point.
reduction, not a tax deduction, a reduction in
Tax
your
liability,
yeah, yes.
right?
Okay,
Yeah.
that's good strategy. So if you have and the same thing, so you're saying for childcare, maybe if you have medications, so what is
Yeah.
that? Things like that you have to pay out every month for
Right.
your chronic illnesses, but I could
Yeah.
actually save it and then utilize it through that process as
The
opposed to just going
pre-tax.
to instead of using my net pay.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Right.
All right, that's a better strategy.
hmm So, for example, back in the day, I wore contacts.
Mm-hmm.
So my contacts cost me, I don't know, let's say $150 a year.
Okay.
So I would, or $150 in the year that I would actually need them. I think I
Mm-hmm.
bought them every year and a half. So I would pay for those pre-tax, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if I paid for them after tax, that was after I got my pay. If I could pay for them pre-tax, my pay would be reduced by that amount of money. I got more money in my pocket,
Mm-hmm.
right? Just like with this example,
Mm-hmm.
and I still get to wear the contacts.
And
So anything,
you're gonna use the money anyway, so you might as well go that direct route.
mhm,
Seems to me.
yes,
Then take it out of your net, so that
yes,
the way you still would have more money in your pocket, but you're
yes.
utilizing what are those flexible spending type of
Flexible
accounts?
spending accounts, yeah,
Okay. So
yeah,
yeah, that would make more sense, especially for things that are ongoing, your child care, your medical expenses, things like that, which you're going to
yeah,
do anyway.
yeah. Because you can pick the amount. So in most of the 125 plans that I've seen, you don't get to you don't get to do a category, right? They want to know exactly what the money is.
Mm-hmm.
So if you know you're going to have a $2,000 expense every year, be
Mm-hmm.
that childcare or whatever, or you know that, like for me, certain years I knew at the beginning of the year I'm going to have to get my eyes checked. I'm going to have to pay for contacts. That's going to be
Or
$150.
glasses
Okay,
or any of those things. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that I know is an expense at the beginning of the year. I do that through the 125. I pay for those monies pre-tax. I get more money in my check. It's not a huge amount. We just did the $1,000 in the 25% tax bracket. It gave us $25 in our check more than we would have had if we'd done it after tax. But
But that's still
$25 times
that's
12, that's
that's
lunch.
that's lunch, that's food, that's transportation, that's gas,
Yes, it
right?
is. That's a
Right.
lot of
So
things, right?
a little bit goes a long way. I
There
think
you
that's
go.
excellent. And I'm trying to rethink back, and it's been hundreds of years since I've been in a corporate type of employer.
hmm
Um, and of course, I was in the accounting department and doing payroll, and we did have those. The company did have that type of those kind of programs, the 125 programs, and I don't know if everyone ever used it to that. I don't know if they really understood that.
It does take an advisor to do that because companies are not insurance agents. They're not financial advisors. They're not the kind of PC people that you want to go to in order to understand the ins and outs of financial topics and things like that. You really want to
Mm-hmm.
speak to your advisor or your health care person. And the cool thing about that is your advisor slash your healthcare person, they want you to ask the question. They
Mm.
want you to say, okay, I'm spending X. How do I invest? How can I save some more money? How can I get more involved in this program?
Mm-hmm.
How can I move things around so that it works personally for me? They want you to ask those questions. I want all of my clients to ask me that question because I certainly want to make sure that if they understand they can get $25 in their paycheck, then they'll definitely understand that they can actually invest more and it's not going to cost them anymore, right? You see where I'm at? So we want you to put more in. We want you to have a lower deductible. We want you to have more service. We want you to take advantage of those plans because it makes you a little bit more comfortable employer. One of the worst things that we have in our lives when it comes to working for companies is that financial instability. More fights about money break up marriages than just about anything else on the board. So if we can provide a little bit of relief by moving things into a pre-tax basis, and that relieves a little bit of stress on you, we're happy. You're a happy employee. You're more productive. You get more money. We get paid more because there's more money in the plan.
Everybody happy is a win-win, huh?
But it's true. Most advisors work on assets under management. There's a big move to just cause a fee, right? But still, more money in the plan is a good thing. It reduces the plan cost. It makes your investment go further by reducing the plan cost. So the more money that goes into the plan, the better off the plan is. And the better off the plan is, the better off you as an employee is. So it all comes back to it's all one big circle, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just thinking back, and I don't recall the simplicity of how you explained that. I don't ever recall having that conversation being that simplistic so that the employee would truly understand what all their benefits were. They saw the benefits in the handbook, but what does that mean? And when yeah, I don't think I recall that. Not at majority of the companies that I worked at, except for the ones that were in the financial industry. Of course, we understood that because we were in the industry.
Yeah. And most people aren't in the industry. So, you need to find somebody that, and it's not necessarily their job to know. And that's why we call it things you should have been taught in school, right? We should all have been taught pre-tax is better than after tax if you can handle that.
I think so. Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's really, really clear and very important for your future. And I don't know, when you're 20 or 25 or 30, retirement seems a long, long time.
Yes, a long time away. Yes.
A long time away. And it really doesn't hit you until you turn 50. And then you start counting down the hours, right?
Yep. It's true. And, I always say to folks, if you think about it now, or if you give me a little bit of time now, then you won't have to think about it when you get older.
Yeah, I think so.
I do remember.
I'm sorry. I remember I was with somebody recently and they were going, and they said, "You counting down the days?" And I'm like, "Counting down the days? What are you counting down the days?" "I'll be retiring in 3 months." Okay.
There you go.
It becomes part of the regular conversation.
Yeah. I worked with a man when I was in Seattle, and his father told him, retirement is not about money. It's about choices. And that really stuck with me. In fact, I use that as a tagline. I hope he doesn't mind. Because I think it's very true. It's not about how much money you have. It's the choices that you have. Do you want to live in a state facility? Do you have the choice not to live in a state facility? Do you have a choice to live with your parents or not to live with your parents, or to live with your children and not to live with your children, or to take a vacation or not? And money is a big part of that. Yeah. I have friends whose parents were elderly, and through some not so creative accounting, they ended up in state institutions where their kids would rather have put them in a place that was quite a bit more nice. And, they weren't able to do that. The money wasn't there. So these little things like investing pre-tax when you can are a blessing. But let's move on to something. Let's talk about after tax. Because after tax is just the opposite. It's very proper, very, very appropriate today, and very popular today is what I wanted to say. So when we talk about after tax, i.e. Roth contributions, and please say, just to make me happy, Roth contributions in your 401k, there is no such thing as a Roth 401k. Just stop saying that. There are Roth IRAs, and that's fine. But there are Roth sections of your 401k. So you can invest via the Roth section of your 401k or via a traditional section of your 401k. All right.
Okay.
You set up a retirement plan and you want to invest after tax. And one of the key reasons for that is, one, you may think that you're going to be in a higher tax bracket after you quit work than you are before. If you're one of those fortunate individuals that has a trust fund. It doesn't kick in until you're 65, right?
Okay.
So you take a look at what you're going to get in your trust fund. You take a look at what you're going to get in Social Security right now, assuming that it's going to be there. And you have more money than you make right now. It's possible that you're going to have a higher tax liability. So why not invest after tax now and not have that tax liability?
Oh, okay.
Right. Because remember, with a retirement plan, especially, or an IRA, especially, you'll have to take what's called a required minimum distribution. And I didn't know we were going to get into this, but I think that's the deal. A required minimum distribution, RMD, right? Which means that the federal government is going to look at the amount of money in your retirement plan or your IRA, and they're going to say, we want you to take a small amount out. And by the way, we're going to tax you on that. Right? So if you have a Roth IRA or the Roth section of a 401k, they're not going to do that. Those monies are after tax. You've already paid the tax on them. The growth is tax-free. Okay, which means you do not pay tax on the growth, right? So if we back up a little bit and we start talking about pre-tax investing, if you're inside a retirement plan, intercompany, or inside an IRA, that money is growing. It's growing what we call tax deferred. That means you're not paying the tax until you pull that money out, till you put it in your hot little hand.
Okay.
All right. If you can invest after tax, then that money grows what we call tax-free. So after you reach the age of 59 and a half, you can take that money, pull that money out, and not pay taxes on those monies. There's a whole 5-year rule too. We don't talk about that. But essentially, you reach 65 and a half, you pull that money out, or 59 and a half, I'm sorry. You pull that money out. You don't have to pay taxes on the growth. You've already paid taxes on the money because you invested them after tax.
After taxes. Okay.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Why would somebody want to do that? Well, the first scenario is, like I said, they think they're going to have more money after they retire than they have now. Maybe they've got some land they're going to be inheriting, and their parents are going to die in the next 10 years. Whatever, they have plans for their parents to die in the next 10 years. Whatever it is. But you're going to have more money. The other is they think that Social Security is not going to be there, right? So they may as well not pay taxes on any of the money that they pull out. So I would suggest, if you're going to do that, put as much in as you can, get those numbers up, right? Because when we're talking about inside a retirement plan, we have to consider that we are looking at compound interest, money made upon money. Well, it doesn't matter if you have the best strategy in the world. If there's no money in the kitty, there's nothing to grow on, right? So if you're going to pay after tax, you got to put as much money as you can. Here's my theory. Number one, I think that I would rather have more people with more money than they have to pay tax on. That is, you've got some extra money because you're able to put more in, and you pull that out and have to pay the tax on it, because we can jockey the tax, right? We can do things to make sure that we don't have to pay that huge tax liability, for example.
Okay.
We can get creative with that when we need to. I'd rather you had more money and were able to pay the taxes than to have after-tax money and not have enough money to live on. That's just me. So the other thing that I feel is that I don't trust our federal government. I'm just going to say that right here and now. I don't trust our federal government. And I don't know when I'm going to start pulling the money out, right?
Right.
So I want my benefit now. I want my benefit right now. That means that I put that money in, I get the immediate benefit of reducing my tax liability. I like that. It's happening right now. It's growing tax deferred. That's good. I'm still getting that benefit. Okay, when I pull the money out, I'm going to have to pay tax on it. But I can move and shake and do what have you in order to reduce that tax liability as much as I can. If I go after tax, I don't get my benefit now. The money does grow tax-free, and when I pull the money out, I don't have to pay taxes on it. Arguably, it's going to cost me more to do that because going after tax is like going down to the grocery store. I've already been paid. I got my hot little check. I paid my money. I'm down 25% already. Now I'm going to go buy that bread. I got to put that money out. Make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Most financial advisors, wealth managers, they suggest you have both. After tax.
I was just going to ask that. Can you have a little both a pre-tax and an after-tax?
Yes, that's the wise thing. That's popular here in most of our circles, mostly because we don't know what it's going to be. We don't know what the tax thing is going to be. I mean, Reagan sat down with Tip O'Neill. They created this tax thing that lasted 30 years. We can't even get Congress to sit down and talk to each other. So who knows what the tax law will be.
On any topic.
Right? Was that out loud? Yes, I'm sorry.
Yes.
No,
but so true.
Yeah, right. So most advisors suggest that we do both pre-tax and after-tax. Just understand, after-tax, it's like you're paying the money in. You're not getting any benefit until you retire. Now, here's the deal. Some of my clients say, there's no reason for me to contribute because my employer doesn't match. So if your employer doesn't match your contribution, should you go ahead and make a contribution to your 401k plan? And I'm going to say most assuredly, yes, because you still get the benefit of the pre-tax or after-tax investing. It's not your employer's job to make sure that you're able to retire with dignity. As an adult, you have the opportunity to take care of yourself now and when you retire. That's part of the fun thing about being an adult. So you have to take responsibility to make sure that you plan for it. Pre-tax investing, after-tax investing are tools to help you make it through so that when you need those retirement dollars, they're there for you. So you want to use those tools. The 125 plans. You want to take advantage of those so that you can have more money to do what you have to do. More money that can go into retirement savings. More money that can go into putting that chicken on the table for dinner. Right? So I'm going to say yes. If your employer,
and that's kind of interesting. They're kind of betting against their own, against themselves with an assumption that I'm not going to do that because my employer doesn't match. But it's not about the employer, right? It's about them.
It is.
Okay.
It is. If some of my clients walked into my office and they said, does this employer match? And I said, no. And they said, well, I don't see why I should put money in the plan. If they're not going to match, why should I put money in the plan? And I got to thinking, you really don't understand what you're saying. You really, really don't. You want to go back and examine that, and make sure you're on point with that.
Jevon, that's, in my space, we're always speaking of how little we as people really understand financial literacy. I think that's when things like that really hit home, right? Because, that's part of that whole picture. Is the landscape is understanding how you are going to be taken care of now, later, and in the future, right?
Yep.
And understanding, all of the pieces to that, because that comment, when they come to you and say, well, if they're not matching, then I don't see what's in it for me, basically,
Right.
right?
Right.
But it is about you. It's about you
Yep.
taking care of your future.
Exactly.
And it's not about whether or not your employer, I mean, it's great that your employer has a plan, period, whether they match or not.
Exactly, because it costs them to provide the plan.
Right, it costs them to provide the plan, because if not, now it's on you. The onus is on you, is to make sure you make the right investments, make sure you're allocating so much money into a savings account that you can use, but it's not going to be investing in anything. It's just going to be sitting in a savings account, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Very well said. It's just going to be sitting in that savings account, or you could decide to invest with your local advisor. I mean, you can come into my office and say, "Hey, Jevon, I want to put $2,000 a month into the market. Can you help me diversify my portfolio so that I get the right mix for me?" Yes, we can do that. That's no problem. But it's going to cost you $2,000 a month. Whereas if we put it into your 401k plan and you're in the 25% tax bracket, instead of it costing you $225 a month, or $2,000 a month rather, maybe it'll only cost you $1,750, $1,800.
Oh, okay, that's good. That's very simplistic. Okay.
Yes. Clear as mud.
Clear as mud.
Okay, let's go on before we run out of time. Okay. Let's talk about non-taxable. That gets people, because we don't quite understand that. What does non-taxable mean? And we generally use that term when we're talking about the growth of your investment. So, for example, if you invest pre-tax or if you invest after tax, the money grows non-taxable at that time. We use different words. We say tax deferred, which means you have to pay tax at the end if you're investing pre-tax, or after tax, we say you don't have to pay money at all because it grows non-taxable. So non-taxable means that generally we use it when we're talking about the growth of your plan. Outside of a 401k plan, we could use it in an insurance case. You borrow from your 401 from your insurance plan. You don't have to pay the money back. It's non-taxable to you, right? That's one of those strategies. And I'm sure in your neck of the woods, there are things that you can do that are non-taxable, right? And monies you can receive. If you receive a grant,
that's non-taxable.
There's no tax implication there.
And actually, right now with the PPP, all the relief programs, they're non-taxable. The only thing that was provided as a result of the pandemic that's taxable is unemployment insurance, but everything else was non-taxable.
Okay, so that's a cool thing. Okay, that's non-taxable, and then the last thing that we have to talk about is tax credits. And in my world, tax credits mean that if you invest and you have a credit, the amount of credit you have actually goes against your actual tax liability. So, for example, and reduces that tax liability specifically. So if you are in the 25% tax bracket and you have to, and you make $1,000, but you have a 25% tax credit, right? That would mean that money, that $250,000, because you're in the 25% tax bracket, that 250, we said $100,000. Did we do that? That $100,000, that $250,000 that you have to pay in tax because you're in the 25% tax bracket. $25,000. I'm sorry, that $25,000 you have to pay. $25,000 because you're in the 25% tax bracket. And you made $100,000.
Yeah,
so you got to pay
25,000. 25,000. Yeah.
Right. Okay. If you have a 25% tax credit, then 25% of that $25,000 you don't have to pay.
Oh.
It's a tax credit. Right?
So that's how those work.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a credit against your taxes.
Against your tax. A lot of wealthy people use that strategy, right?
You know, I think that might be a good show for a beer, or a good topic for a beer after the show. I don't know if I want to get into that.
Ponder through it.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But it's a relief of the credit, right?
Okay.
So now where it works in my world is with employers, and you might want to know this. If you start a plan this year, or last year even, but especially this year, if you start a plan and the cost of the plan is $10,000, I mean, that's kind of expensive, but let's say it's $10,000.
Okay.
There's a tax credit for $15,000 over 3 years. So you get to break up your, essentially you get to break up your payment in a way between 3 years. And as a total, you can get $15,000 worth of relief.
Oh.
So all the expenses that you have, and that could be setting up the plans, talking to me, talking to other folks, education, if that equals $15,000 over a 3-year period, you can get a 15-year tax credit. I'm sorry, you can get a $15,000 tax credit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So you may have very, very little cost in starting that plan. You do it this year. New for the CARES Act.
For the Security. Oh, that was part of the CARES Act?
Part of the Secure Act, actually, I believe.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's incentive for starting a plan.
It is, because it's definitely not as expensive as you think it is. And the credit lasts 3 years, right? So, you know, in order to get the full amount, you want to remember what that was over those 3 years. And it could come out that you owe very little money when it comes to setting that plan up. It takes you 3 years to recoup it. But at the end of the day, you might have a very small tax liability.
Okay.
So tax credits are really cool because they attack your tax liability specifically.
Okay.
They're a credit on your tax liability.
And that's for the employer that's setting up the plan for his or her employees.
Well, the thing that we just spoke about is definitely for the employer, but depending on your income, there is a tax credit for contributing to the 401k plan. So if you have a very small income and you're thinking, I can't put money into the plan because I gotta feed my family. Depending on what your income is, you may be able to apply for a tax credit for the amount of your contribution. So not only would you be contributing pre-tax, but you would actually get a credit on the liability that you incur based on the rest of your monies. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the government wants you to save for your retirement.
Okay. All righty. Okay. A lot of people don't know that for sure.
Yeah, you know, it is an interesting way to look at it, because typically we think, oh, the government's here to rip me off. But in this situation, they're actually trying to get you so that you don't have to rely upon them so much, trying to get you to the point. And some advisors would say that back in the 70s, the Department of Labor and the federal government, the IRS, they gave financial advisors a charge to educate people about how to invest and specifically how to save for retirement. And we in the industry, I'm just going to say it right now, it's a big challenge for us. We've had difficulty getting to people to convince them that saving for their retirement is a good idea. And I'm not going to say it's all our fault, generally because of the environment that we're in and how expensive it is to do things and what have you. So we had a tough battle. So, and most of us feel have a passion to stand up every morning and fight that fight, to get people involved in their retirement savings so that they can live comfortably and just have the government help them out rather than rely upon the government as their major source of income. And the reality of the situation is that your voters and neighbors are the ones who determine by their voting of who's in office, who's not, a major part of how much that check is going to be.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, if the administration changes and they go before Congress and they say, look, we just don't have the money. They're not going to appropriate. We're going to spend the money on the space program, or we're going to do whatever it is that we want to do, right? I mean, we've got some voters out there that are loud about it and they keep Social Security afloat, but we've already had politicians nibbling at that. We're stretching the age out. We're reducing the benefit. There aren't that many people here that I know that want to work until 75 until they get their full Social Security benefit, right? I mean, I don't know very many people like that.
No. Which is interesting considering the fact that but again, it's all self-serving, right? Because if you don't pay for one, if you don't assist it on one way, you're going to assist it on the other end. So that means, more people on systems, county systems and state and federal systems, because they got to live.
Yeah.
And it requires money to live.
Yeah.
Right. So it like you said earlier, it makes more sense. I mean, the government really wants you to have what you need to retire so that you're not relying on a governmental system, especially with people living well past 60 or 70. I guess, back in the day when, the age expectation or expectancy was, maybe 50, 49, 50, depending on. But now people live to be 100.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of money for the government to shell out when we need school programs and we need research things and we need a military that's going to fight and we need roads built. I don't know about roads, but we need all these things that the government provides for us. And we've got a big chunk of it, and we already do, going to senior citizen care because folks weren't able to save. We're in a hurt.
Yeah. Would you say, just a speculation question, and you may not know the answer, would you say other countries embrace this better than we do on taking care of their aged or their retired people?
I have never seen a situation that like you're talking about. I would say that I'm not probably a good person to answer that.
Okay.
Especially here on this show.
Okay.
Over a beer again.
Okay.
I may have some other things to say. But
okay, all righty.
Right here and now. And I'll pretty much say it right here and now. The opportunity that we have in this country to be successful in so many ways, even in retirement, is phenomenal. There are lots of countries that I would like to do business with who, they don't have a retirement system. There is no retirement system.
Okay.
Right. I mean, maybe they have a pension, but they don't have their government pitching in to help them out. Right. So even if the government is helping you out just a little bit, that's a lot better than living in many, many countries around the globe.
Exactly. Okay. So, I'll take that.
Cool beans. Okay. Last comments, Ms. Mitchell.
Well, I think it's been a great show only because, you simplified, the pre-tax and the after-tax and definitely the 125 plans, where you really do bring more money home in your pocket, even though it's not the 900, but the 675. But if you have those programs set up, those, things that you're paying anywhere, child care and health care and health, and optical, glasses and prescriptions, you're going to spend that anyway. So it's better if you are in a plan that money is allocated for you. You've taken it off the top, and then you still have more money for your groceries and transportation.
Right. Yeah. Pre-tax is a wonderful thing. May I read your bio and then we can close out?
Yes, you may.
Okay, everybody. Let me introduce to you my friend and co-anchor for today's show. You've got these great titles: friend, co-anchor, colleague. Awesome.
It's reciprocated. I think of you the exact same way.
Well, thank you very much. So let me introduce to you folks Crystal Mitchell, business consultant and coach, CEO of Mitchell Business Solutions, co-director of Recycling Black Dollars, co-host of the Business Zone with Crystal and Gilbert, a weekly online show, instructor at Mount San Antonio Community College, certified network for teaching entrepreneurship instructor, and a QuickBooks Pro Advisor financial strategist. Crystal, thank you so much for joining me on the show. I really appreciate your comments and the context with which you make them. And that's about all I have.
All righty. It's been a great show, and the same here. I enjoy the topic today, and I look forward to our next topic next week.
Awesome. All righty. Have a great day, Crystal. I'll see you folks later.
Say bye-bye, everyone. Have a great one.